So we're going to read through the pasuk in its entirety, and we're going to notice Vayechalek is separated out slightly from Alehem Laila, over them a night. So we're going to say that this angelic force is there as well, and there's the pause after that, and then we say who is the earthly forces, Huva Avadav. So we've got the divine force Laila and Huva Avadav. They're working together, and what do? Vayakem, Vayurdafem ad chova, and they run after them until they decide that. And what does chova mean, by the way? Chova means a debt, an obligation. So Avram goes to fulfill his obligation, not to continue to pursue the war. So I think that's important. And again, biblical names are not necessarily the names of the place. And biblical names of people are not necessarily the names of the people. They tell us more the higher motivation of why or what happened there, or who or what that person was. So again, the place might not in fact be called Chova on the map, but Abraham went to the point of fulfilling his obligation, and not to the point of becoming even more of a military hero, because he certainly had that, and that phrase gets separated out for Asher Mismol, which is just going to the place where the enemy would completely disperse and go back home, and the domestic, which again is sitting by itself because the enemy is over there and he's over here with what he wants. So again, we separate out those two phrases, and we'll hear it when I overemphasize the pauses. Vayechalek alehem laila hu va'avadav vayakem vayurdafem ad chova asher mismol ledamasek. Again, hopefully some of that phrasing now fits in, now that you understand what's happening with the text. We are on page 65. Vayashev, and he returned, and that is a zakef gadol, a line with the two dots beside it. Avram went northward on his mission, not disturbing the peace of the inhabitants, and he returned home the same way, without conquering any land or taking any possession which belonged to somebody else, as indicated by the shape of the reading mark. So we have, it's a little hard to see here, so that's why I'm going to draw it out for us.
2 points, maybe the beginning and the end, and he went straight beside them without interfering with them.
So
maybe
he is going to go back in the straight line from the place where he won to the place where he was before, so the place of discord to the place of peacefulness. So again, this is and he's going to take that straight path. So that's very much a pictogram of what he did. Eight, along with a tipcha. So this is backwards focused and pausing slightly afterwards. His fighting men behaved similarly, and along with his principles, they were warned and instructed to conduct themselves properly, as referred backward by the directional shape of the reading mark. So his returning is going to be consistent with both him and all of the people under his command. Kol harachush, all the wealth, separated from that by the pause after the tipcha. You have the stabilizing et nachta, talking about all the wealth, number 3. Though Avram rejected goods not belonging to him, he recovered all the wealth robbed from the people by the Mesopotamian hordes, as shown by the stabilizing shape of the reading mark. So, when we see the word kol, all, coming in a phrase, it reflects back on what Yaakov says. Yaakov says, Yesh li kol, I have everything. Where Esav says, Yesh li rov, I have a lot, I'm not going to take your gift. And Yaakov says, Yesh li kol, I've got everything. What do we learn from that phrase? I've got everything. That Yaakov, when he crosses over the river to fight with Esav's angel, why did he go back? Because he left a pot there. He left a little clay jar there. That ends up being the clay jar. The Midrash tells us that saves some of the profits in later generations. It just continues to pour out a stream of oil again and again and again until they make enough money to manage to sustain a good cause. So by respecting each and every little thing, you manage to bring out the power of each and every little thing, and that's what we learn from the story of Yaakov and him going back. And when we say Kol HaRachush, Avram is again making sure that everyone who was dispossessed maintains not only their possessions, but all of the potential that they might have had and all of the good that might come out of them having had that particular thing. And we sort of take for granted the idea of property rights. This is mine, it's mine. But we don't see that there's a divine element in this as well. This is mine not only because this is my pen. This is mine because I have the potential to make a decision with this of what I'm going to do, and I have the ability to take this and do something good with it. So not only is it my right, it's my ability to use my free will to control, and I have the ability to turn it into something elevated or to turn it into something lower, and that's what I'm here for. I'm here and I'm given that in order to do something. So you don't disrespect anything that you have, because it is an ability for you to express your potential through. So very small word, kol, but it has a lot more depth to it. So again, Avram brings back all of the property. Vigam klishak tana. So this is a backwards looking note. This is a connecting note. It actually reads into the next word, and it's always put at the end of the word, even if the accented syllable is earlier. You'll end up with two of them. So again, this is going to sweep us forward into the next thing. So this is a connecting note, not a separating note. Number 4, and also Avram recaptured the material possessions and also attended to the main objective of his campaign, to save lives, as stressed by the shape and placement of the reading mark. So this is going to lead us forward into what comes next, et Lot. He's going to save Lot, and this is emphasized by a note that sits on top of the word and draws the story forward from there. Number 5, with Lot. Together with Lot, whom Avram had saved, the family was freed, as denoted by the directional shape of the reading mark. Lot and everything that goes together with him, that's what the Pashta is pointing to. Achiv, his brother, with a mapach. So this is something that gathers something from before and narrows it to a focus. So Lot, who, despite having separated himself out from Avram still reconnects and allows Lot to refocus and reconnect. Number 6, his brother. After Lot went through several, quote, death equivalents like fear of death, deprivation of his family, loss of his possession, humiliation, etc., Avram considered him spiritually purified and qualified to be his brother, as suggested by the shape of the reading mark. So when Avram and Lot separate out and choose to go, and Lot is given the ability to go different ways, the Zohar again tells us that Avram was sitting at the top of a mountain, dividing the land of Israel into two halves from north to south, probably with Jerusalem at its center. And he tells Lot, if you go right, I'll go left. If you go left, I'll go right. They've got the holiest place sitting right in the middle, so that each of them will have a share of it. That's what Avram offers him. And what does Lot do? Lot goes to the side. He goes east. He doesn't go north to south. He goes to the side. He goes to stone. So Vayipardu, when they separated, there Lot philosophically says, no, I don't want any part of what you're offering me. I want to be something different. And we have Avram getting direct revelation. Avram said, God tells Avram, Lech Lecha, and then Avram doesn't get a direct Vayomer Elokeinu Avraham, God saying anything to Avram until Lot separates out from him. So once that influence gets removed from him, then again, the angels come to Avram. Avram has the ability again to be fully in touch with the divine after Lot separates himself out. And here we're saying that when Avram does this act of potential self-sacrifice to save Lot, Lot then becomes redeemed by that good act, and Avram can bring him back into the fold again, can narrow him down so that Lot can be part of the sphere of Avram's influence again, because Lot realizes that everything that he had, he owes to Avram, who has now recovered it for him.
I didn't know that part. I didn't understand that part. I know it was, if you go left, I'll go right. If you go right, I'll go left. And I thought Lot picked either
So
right
if
or
you
left,
figured-
one being the most
Right.
fertile. I did not know.
So again, that's only the Zohar. It's not in any of the other Maparshim. So you probably haven't accessed that before.
Okay.
So sorry, the Zohar says they split it a line
So
east-west?
Avram was offering north-south, so that they would each have half of Yerushalayim. And he didn't care whether Lot went to the north or to the south, but Lot chose to go east. So he didn't want any part of the way that Avram was dividing it. He didn't. You can have A or B. I want C.
Right.
So Lot completely
want
went
fish.
out of
Yeah.
beef or chicken. I want fish.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Right. So can I ask you something about the notes themselves? So Mercha, it takes what was before and kind of scoops forward, right?
Right, but it's lightly connected to what
To
was
what
come
was
before.
Okay. And then there's the Pashta, which is also,
Pointing
pointing
forward,
forward and
but
kind of connected slightly to what came
not
before.
connected to what's come from before.
Oh, okay.
Emphasizing it's a melech. It's got a little minor pause after it. So again, it's a separating note, whereas a mercha is a joining note.
Okay. So the Mercha joins to what was before, and does the Pashta kind of look
The Pashta looks forward,
to connect slightly to what's ahead
but
of
again emphasizes the word and lets it stand by itself while it's looking forward.
So it's not a note of connection in any
It's
way.
not.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Urechusho, number 7, and his assets. Again, the Pashta, so this is looking forward to what's coming after it. Oh, sorry, we missed a side note. In B, in the middle of the page, and after number 6. In the process of saving Lot from danger, Avram did not consider any personal disagreements of the past, accepting him as his brother.
Another note?
So, when we had the phrase before, Vayavoha Palit, and the refugee came, and the Midrash tells us that this is Og. And the Midrash tells us why does Og send Avram to such a dangerous place to fight against the superpower of the day, because Og coveted Sarah, wanted Avram to go into battle and to die in battle, or to be taken hostage so that he could marry Sarah. And why did Og think that Avram would do something so silly to attack the superpower of the day? Because he knew that Avram was somebody who would be loyal to somebody who was connected to him from before, and would risk everything to save him. So that's how Og had strategized this whole thing out. That he knew that Avram, who was such a loyal person, would be the type of person who would do this. So that's why he felt that he could confidently say, go do something that's a suicide mission, and Avram would still go. So again, Avram did not hold Lot's past actions against him in any way, and continued to accept him as quote unquote his brother. And we have a second note: since Avram's primary purpose was to save life, Lot, like the other people, should have been mentioned first before the recovery of possessions. But the order indicates that Avram aimed first at material goods to mislead the adversary of his true objective. Otherwise, he feared they might kill the people in reprisal. So, again, we've got layers of deception within layers of deception within layers of deception. So Avram is right, Vayashev ekol harechush, so he returned all of the possessions. And then we say, V'gam et Lot. And he said, also he got Lot. So you figure, if Avram's entire strategy was to free the hostages, what you do is you go in and you free the hostages, and then if you manage to save anything else, you go and you get something else. Given the size and the overwhelming nature of the force that he's fighting against, Avram realizes that if he goes into battle and tries to get directly to where the hostages are, there are a lot of people, and he's going to end up fighting somebody, and in the meantime, they're going to kill the hostages in the background. So what does he do? As a diversionary tactic, he goes for the gold, and manages to get that. And then they just drop the hostages and run because they think they're being overwhelmed. So again, tactic within tactic within tactic, and we see that by the order of where what he got back first. I guess at the Rechush, he gets the possessions, and then he begam et Lot, and then also Lot. And apparently, this tactic was applied later by Hannibal in the 5th century BC.
Makes you want to
I
actually
have to
read
look
war
it up.
history.
Yeah, I was saying, I gotta look that up now.
Now, number 7. Urechusho, that's what we just read. Urechusho and his assets with the Pashta. Lot and his family had been secured, and his assets were meticulously gathered among all other goods, as expressed by the directional shape of the reading mark. So this is going to go forward, and Lucas 2, Heshiv, he returned, with the 2 parts katon. He's going to have both something elevated and something lower. It's going to pause slightly afterwards. Having systematically identified one item after the other, Avram tried to prevent abusive circumstances, and he returned all the belongings to Lot, as pointed out by the bipartite shape of the reading mark. So he's going to give back the important things and the unimportant things because they belong to somebody else. Vigam, and also lightly connected to what has come from before, but mostly bringing the narrative forward. Number 9. In the same fashion, Avram proceeded further, and also with respect to claims of other people, as specified by the directional shape of the reading mark. So, the same thing that he did for Lot, being careful to make sure that he got only his stuff and all of his stuff. This is what he's going to do with everybody else who was also taken hostage. Et hanashim, with the women, with the tipcha, closing note, closing the phrase, and pausing slightly afterwards. Avram dealt with the women individually because of their claims to obtain jewelry and other possessions due to their exposure to all kinds of abuse, as illustrated by the closing shape of the directional reading mark. So he again doesn't follow what necessarily would have been the custom of the time. He treats each individual as important for the individual who they are, rather than following the law of the time that perhaps women were to be dispossessed or were not the owners of property. And again, he introduces a teaching point here that each individual has potential and has merit and the ability to shape the world around what they can influence. Ve'et ha'am, and with the people, with the stabilizing pasuk. Finally, he occupied himself with others who suffered, and with the people who were forcefully displaced, expelled from their homes, and he readily restored their well-being. So as we read through it,
She was an all-round great guy. Really sure everybody.
Innovator.
So
So right.
don't forget, he's described as Avram Ha'ivri. He's described as the one who's on the other side. So he's going to do the exact opposite of what the social normal at the time would have been expected to be, to allow it to be a teaching point. So he's going to be unselfish and caring and respectful and seeing the potential in everything. Whereas in a society where you have kings and officers and vassals and lower people, each caste doesn't have any use for the level that's lower than them. So he's doing the exact opposite of that. And everything that he does is a teaching point.
In all with the purpose of to get people to follow him, you think? This way, they'll follow what I'm saying, and what I'm saying is there's one God, and so if he gets their respect and then their trust.
So it's not necessarily done as a ploy. It's done as you're doing the right thing because people have the potential to see what the right thing really is by the way that you do it. So Jews are supposed to be Or Lagoyim. We're literally supposed to be a light showing them the path of what the right way is. And Masei Avot Siman Labanim. Whatever the forefathers do, that's what we have to look into and try to emulate. So I had a Christian patient, who came up to me and said, when you speak to a Christian, they always if they come to a point of moral decision, they say what would Yoshka do? So they've got their role model. And similarly, when you come to a Muslim, they say, what would Muhammad do? And he asked me, okay, so when you're a Jew, who do you try to be like? And we certainly say that the most elevated person in Jewish history was Moses. But specifically, when you read through Haggadah, when you read through the thing that you figure you're going to aggrandize this person, he's in the fine print. He's barely in the text at all, and yet he's the focus of the whole story when you read the narrative. So we're not into hero worship or being like somebody, because we realize that every individual has his own ego, which separates himself out from what he potentially could have been. He imposes his own desires and thoughts and so on the narrative of the way that he expresses things in his life. So we do separate out people who were great because they came close to their potential. But we realize that each person is striving to be the best themselves that they can be. It's the Zusha question. Why weren't you like this? Why weren't you like that? And the toughest question to answer is why weren't you like Zusha could have been? So again, we don't have an ideal role model, because people are given the ability to make choices, and they don't always make the best choice. So we don't model ourselves as what would Moses do. We don't see any bumper stickers. Rather, we look for self-improvement, and we compare ourselves with everything that we're given, both in terms of skills and intellect and possessions, and we're shaping the world with that, and that's who we are. And we don't need to look further and find a role model and try to be somebody else, because that's not our decision point. That's not who we are. So being like them would be inappropriate given who you are. And again, this is the whole idea of Avram standing on the other side and doing exactly the opposite of what would have been done by somebody at the time. As we read through the sentence, we're going to see that we see the separation of Vayashev Kol HaRechush, that the tactical taking the possessions first, versus V'gam et Lot Achiv U'Rechusho Heshiv, that he's taking Lot, and he was the primary purpose of the mission. Next phrase, V'gam et Anashim, and he takes the other people and gives them their things, and gives rights to the women of the time who would have also been a dispossessed segment, Vata'am, and the rest of everybody as well he treats with that same level of respect. So he elevates those people who have been lowered. He completes his primary goal, elevates the people who have been lowered, and yet treats everybody with the respect that they were due. So that's the way the phrasing works. That he had to save Lot because he owed him a debt of family, and he'd never thought of him as anything else other than Achiv, his brother. And then he has to take the lower part of society, which might have been dispossessed by the higher part if he had saved them first. So he mentions them first, and then Vata'am, and then the nation. We see this similar turning upside down of phrasing in exactly the opposite sense in Megillat Esther. In Megillat Esther, Vayhi b'mei Achashverosh, it happened in the days of Achashverosh. Who Achashverosh? So he's not a king, son of another king, son of another king. Achashverosh, who is Achashverosh? So he's a usurper to the throne. So what does a usurper to the throne do? He tries to turn society upside down. So he takes the lowest people and he gives them the honor, so that you've taken away everybody else who might have had a title, because if somebody else had a title from before, they might be better than you because you're a usurper king. You're not somebody who's got a royal background. So, Vet hashtarpanim, Vet hapachot, Vet sarei hamdinot. So you take the lowest level, and then you take the pachot, the lesser officers, Vet hasarim, and then you take the major officers. So he's turned society upside down for the exact opposite reason, in order to aggrandize himself. And Avram is doing exactly the opposite. He's giving everybody their rights so that nobody will fight amongst themselves and belittle another group. So you see the same strategy, turning things upside down, used for both good and for bad, in the opposition of those two concepts. Sorry, I got cut up. I just noticed it now. So we're going to read through the sentence. Vayashev 8 Kol HaRechush V'gam et Lot Achiv U'Rechusho Heshiv V'gam et Anashim V'Yata'am. Do we have one more sentence in all of us? Or are we fading?
That's good.
I'm okay. How are you guys doing?
Are you okay?
Continue.
Okay.
You got to?
Pardon, Mr. Can I get you something?
No, thank you. We are on page 66, 1417. Vayetze, and he went out with the munach. So this is sharply demarcated from what's come from before and moving the narrative forward from there. Number one, in recognition of Avram's great achievement, the leader of the kings of the area, gave up his pride, and he went out personally to demonstrate his respect and humility for the hero king, as indicated by the shape of the reading mark. So he's going to leave what he normally would have done and do something different in order to respect Avram. So that's the Menach. Melech Stom with the Zarka. It was well known that the king of Stom, who expressed his admiration for Avram and his complicated efforts, as shown by the shape of the reading mark. So this is a connecting note that's going to take and give honor, give merit to the word that it's on. Likrato.